Good evening, everybody. My name is Callie Gardner, and this is my applied assignment for my SPE 223 class, or Society, Disability, and Inclusion. Table of contents, we've got the things that everybody knows, got our pre-work research, new learning, and our continued inquiry. For pre-work on the applied assignment, my topic was society and disability. And the reason why for this is because it relates to the inclusion of individuals, because it is how society interacts with the individuals with a disability, so specifically in education and in childhood development. The aspects of inclusion: education for children and adult individuals with disabilities is constantly changing. There are options within schools for individualized education programs best fit for children with disabilities. By focusing on an individual who went through the public school system, this will be eye-opening. So for my interview, I chose to interview a very close friend of mine. His name is Axel Edwards. Axel is an individual with a disability and can speak from experience. Is the reason why I decided to speak with him. Axel has BPD-1. I do have permission to share this. And he opened up to me and explained to me how BPD has affected him in his life. Some background knowledge is I'll be interviewing this person because it is best to get information straight from the source. This person, Axel, in particular, has had a difficult time throughout school due to his disability. He had a hard time talking to his parents a lot of the time and to his teachers because everyone just thought that he was angry all the time, and I was super moody. For course materials, I chose Anything But Sorry, Leah's story. I chose this because this viewing provides a real example as to why people with disabilities should not be looked at as a negative part of society, but the opposite. Just like Leo, any person with a disability should be a blessing or warrant a positive reaction. The other course material that I chose was The Benefits and Barriers to Person-Centered Planning for Adults with Developmental Disabilities. Person-centered planning helps the individual take control of their life when applied in education. It can be beneficial to let the student take control of what they're learning in some form or another. The barriers it creates has to do with the resources available, not the amount of people willing to learn or be a part of person-centered planning for people with disabilities. From my research, I chose an article called How to Improve Students with Disability Sense of Belonging. This article breaks down exactly what steps we can be taking to ensure that students with disabilities feel as if they belong in a setting or in a classroom. I will be able to use the knowledge gained from this article in order to apply it to a real life scenario in education and my own conducted research. For example, I'm an educational studies major, so I want to teach kids and I want to teach young kids. So being able to improve belonging for students with disabilities, I can also improve with able-bodied students as well, both in the same classroom setting instead of just like separating the two of them, which takes us into the other research that I chose, which was integration versus inclusion. This article explains the difference between integration and inclusion and explains how they're not the same. With this, both are positive. The purpose of this article is to inform the reader on the difference and explain what is currently being used and what makes a bigger impact on students with disabilities and able-bodied students in the classroom environment. So again, working with integrating students in the same classroom, kind of things sort of like unified programs, unified PE, unified culinary, things like that, to have these students in an environment where unified is normal. Evidence. So evidence, I made sure to include the audio link for the interview that I had with Axel, which is on SoundCloud for those of you who are interested in looking at different podcasts and things. I also have a podcast from a previous class that I was starting. And then my evidence was, obviously I have the interview out, the confirmation of the interview. For new learning, inclusion, what I learned about inclusion during the interview is that inclusion can mean anything. You can include anybody in anything. You can also exclude people in anything. Just because someone is different doesn't mean they don't have feelings. People are constantly having feelings, whether or not you're judging them or not judging them or including them or not including them. So it's super important to keep everybody included. It connects to course materials and topics because this interview is connected to the course because of how the information directly from an individual with a disability was diagnosed in childhood, how inclusion, society, disability, and inclusion, how that all ties together. For Axel, who is the individual, had throughout school. For equity, I used anything but sorry, Leo's story, by treating all individuals just as that, as individuals. They're all their own people, their own persons, but fairness induces positivity. So being positive makes people more being fair makes people more positive rather than negative, and being disabled shouldn't be something to be sorry about. For access, I use inclusion versus integration. Education does not have to be segregated to be good education. By putting all children together, abled and disabled, you're creating an environment of normalcy. So like I said earlier, with programs like the unified schools, unified courses, especially in high school, where things become a little clickier, it's really important to have that sense of normalcy for the students. My main question I have for my peers is, if you have a child with a disability that isn't diagnosed until later in their school years, specifically like middle school, high school, how would you personally go about raising your child then after? So you didn't know about it beforehand, but now you know about it. What are you going to do next? And that is all I have for you. Here are my references. Oh, I forgot to include this. There we are. I liked the quote that was in this. And then resources, there we are. Here's all the references that I have for this guy. And yeah, that is my presentation. Thank you so much for watching.